So with our handsome Mr. O, ready Ozzy? So I like to warm up obviously with the beauties, sometimes with some lovely find its. Again, some of the benefits are just it gets your pup up and wiggling. It also starts to create this lovely orientation back to you from the environment, which is awesome. Ready, find it. But a lot of times puppies do have more energy than we can keep up with. This doesn't mean that you want to physically exercise them to the point where you're trying to get them really fatigued. That actually tends to create more of a problem than a resolution. And what I mean by that is if we physically only keep working the puppies to the point of where they're finally tired, is you may at times create a very physically fit pup that you won't be able to keep up with into adolescence or adulthood. But then also your babe might need that much energy expending. And I'm not saying to not have a good time with your puppy, get them out and about, get them playing and exploring. But if your puppy tends to be an eager beaver or wild boy or girl, the problem with sometimes, for example, going into when they're excited, more excitement, is it gets the brain kind of hardwired for when you get really jazzed, you're going to have to get more jazzed to finally go back down from that. So I like to, if they're really eager, is do a little bit of mental and physical thinking. So it's both the body and the brain coming together. If it was only physical and we forgot about the brain aspect of everything, that's where for some babes you add in a lot of exercise, but their brain is still revving. You may find that they reboot really quickly because they're so physically fit, but their brain is still sort of looking for the next thing. So I would recommend to have a nice little trail mix where sometimes you go from play, from exploration to check-ins to working some skill set and rotate through those different venues so your puppy can become well-rounded. Because remember, if we only exercise the brain, not the brain, but the body, we might forget how to help the puppy when they get too excited, how to come back from that. So remember the benefit of sometimes doing some of this play or this on-off switch is to help your puppies deal with the world later when sometimes things become exciting or overwhelming. So I wanted to work a little bit with the handsome guy with his leash and do a little bit with loose leash walking, but then also dive into some weight behaviors. So weight is where, and again, everybody can rock this a little different, so don't worry, but weight is where I have my dogs sitting or downing. I tell them to wait, and then I call them to me. You may also use the word come or here, whatever slogan makes sense for you guys. You may even find in the beginning, if the gear is one more distraction, start off gear and then work a little sit. Tell your handsome guy to wait. Take a teeny step if you can. If you could not add that distance, work from the time frame first. So right here, we go Ozzy, come, and we'd feed him for moving into our space. Waits can also be used for waiting at the doorway, wait before meeting something or someone, wait before being fed, or also wait before going and retrieving something. So we might tell him to, again, wait, and then he has, let's say he wiggles. So notice how if I took a step back, he goes to move. We're going to reset him up, tell him to wait. If me adding distance is hard, I'm going to do a side sort of lean or step to the side. And then again, Ozzy, come. So you're trying to eventually generalize your babe for all of the different cool skills they're working on, with sometimes working duration, sometimes distances, and then other times distractions. So we're going to, again, get that gorgeous little, he's like, I hoped you threw it, lady. Ready, sit. I might feed him for that gorgeous response. Now I'm going to tell him to wait, take a little bit of some movement. If movement was too hard, you could literally be right in front of him and call him from there. So again, I'm going to get my little item ready. He's like, oh, already, chewing and breathing is hard. All right, there we go, gorgeous. So maybe he's going to do a down position. I don't mind if he's sitting or downing. The main goal is that he's just waiting until I call him forward. I know earlier I worked with Mr. A, and he was working some stays. Stays can happen anywhere, but I would recommend if you're going to be rocking a stay position, if I could talk, then use a dog bed or cot can be very helpful. He's going to grab a little drink, which is fine. So if, let's say, your lovely guy at home is struggling, make sure you maybe have a distinct wait and a distinct stay, the way that I have, for example, with my guys, but that's also like having a distinct sit and a distinct down. So each one is its individual skill. So with Mr. O, he's like, got to drink up a little bit more extra. Nice. So that's my little positive interrupter. I just didn't want him chugging too much, even though it's a nice big bowl, we can always rotate through the water. So right here, I'm going to tell him once more to wait. And then I go, Ozzy, come. So remember that if your babes was really having a hard time with this, baby steps. So maybe you first start off with your puppy right in front of you. They have them hold back for a few seconds and call them from there. Mr. O has decided that now he's immensely thirsty after all of his practice earlier. Ready? Yes. So right there, lovely little positive interrupter to get Mr. O's attention back on me. So let's say, for example, we're going to be working a little bit with, he's like, oh, starving. What a hungry hippo. Working through some of this loose leash walking and some weights. I'm going to put his gear on, his leash, and see if we can practice a little bit on gear as well as the off gear. So sometimes if your puppy's a bit of a wiggly worm, I like to go ahead and put a couple tidbits right on the floor. So as I'm leashing up, they're not sort of wiggling or moving or trying to nibble the gear. So my leash, again, just like I did with Mr. A, is I like to put my thumb through the handle and then close it that way. If you prefer to put it around your wrist, you can, but just remember as the yucky weather's coming and you might need to let go for safety reasons, it would be better for you to let go than to have your puppy pull you down the stairs. So obviously we're going to work on some of these skills as well as we progress, but I would make sure that for safety reasons, if you had to, you could relinquish the gear and let go for a moment. So right here, we're going to have his leash on. I'm going to again feed. For right now, he's going to be on my right side. Later, I might switch him to the left. So right here, I'm feeding Mr. Handsome every few steps or so to keep his engagement. If, for example, he's a little bit mouthy, because again, the puppies do get a little excited for their snacks, is make sure to feed with a flat palm. So like, for example, he's getting then the snack from inside my hand on the flat part of my hand and not getting my fingertips. If your puppy was immensely mouthy, the other option is to do what I call the breadcrumb trail. So you could go ahead and feed the floor. So as you're walking, you take a few steps together and then feed the floor. You can also drop them, but I feel for some of the snacks, they're a little rolly and they might roll. But it's up to you guys. If you're worried about your puppy ingesting odd things, I would recommend to sometimes feed from your hand to their face, because for some of the puppies, they see little items on the floor and they get a little confused. So if your puppy is one of those that struggles with items on the ground, you can easily feed from your hand as well, flat. Nice. He's like, that fuzzy looked delicious. So let's say, for example, after all this lovely loose leash walking, maybe we get a gorgeous little sit. We could then tell him to wait, have him hold it for a second or two. And then when we're ready, Ozzy, come. And you'll see that right now, I want to make it where it's almost errorless. If he does make a mistake, he doesn't get in trouble. He doesn't have to worry about making a mistake and then worrying about getting corrected. So right there, if you didn't quite respond to like the feel of the equipment, he started just blowing through it, I always try to get the puppy's attention back on me. So that's where that orientation with those find-its can be really helpful. Because if the gear is the only reason your puppy is with you, then the gear is the only reason he's going to stay later. So pretend as if your puppy were, for example, naked, and the gear is there for reasons of safety and for consistency, but it shouldn't be making things happen. So again, let's say we're going to try a little bit of loose leash walking again on my left side now. So now again, my right hand would have my gear. So my leash is in my right hand. I'm feeding this handsome guy for being by my left side. So if it's easier, you can move your treat pouch to the middle. You could have it wherever seems comfortable. Oh, I dropped one, find it. Wherever it feels comfortable for you. So my gear, again, is nice and relaxed. I don't have constant tension on my leash because remember, for anybody's dogs or puppies, tension tends to equal more pull into it or against it, but then also pulling is reinforcing of more pulling. So if my handsome guy pulled me to get to like the next bush to go check it out, then pulling is what gave him that lovely sniff moment. So we want to be careful that pulling does not by mistake get reinforced from us or from them by mistake too. Chewing is hard when we're walking. Nice. So again, as we're meandering, maybe we could go ahead and we could ask again for one of those beautiful little sits, and then we'll do another little wait. So let's say right here, we're going to get a little sitting position so you can all see him well. I'm going to tell him to wait. And if let's say the leash is weird and tickles him, some of them are like weirded out by almost like the seaweed in the ocean. You could do this on leash and off leash, but I try both. So again, right here, Ozzy, come and feed for that. So these weights are looking really, really pretty. So remember, weights could then start to be applied to doorways. But if doorways are really hard for him, I would highly recommend practice with a doorway that doesn't lead to anywhere. So bedroom doorway, bathroom doorway, and then practice that threshold of going from one space to another. And what I like to do is sometimes practice with the doorknob or the noise of the door and feed the puppy for being stationary while waiting. So again, we're going to just feed him for doing such a nice little sit. We might try a gorgeous, oh, he was about to do it anyway, down. And let's say, for example, you could even do this where you drop your gear, let him just practice wearing it, and you can rotate through some behavior and skills. So we're going to tell him to wait. I'm going to see if I can add a little bit of movement, just move around him ever so slightly. Nice. Ozzy, come. Beautiful. If, let's say, there's moments where your babe cannot tolerate the weight because all they want to do is get up and wiggle, you could go back to working some of those find its with then a recall from that. So I could send him away with a little find it, and then I could go, Ozzy, come. And the benefit of letting him drag his leash as well is getting comfortable with just the equipment, but it could be good for added safety for down the road if he's, still working with those recalls. Using a longer training lead can be very helpful. But it can be also another great way to just get your puppy comfortable with sometimes there could be something lagging behind and it doesn't turn into a toy or something spooky. So again, Ozzy, come. Yes. So don't forget to sometimes mark those moments where your puppy is doing the right thing or skill or cue, because that can sometimes help them master the skills even faster. So the YES is typically what I use to mark whatever you just did. Like right here as he comes into my space, I go, yes. And I would feed him for entering my bubble for that, again, recall, even though I didn't get to say it. So I'm going to, again, one more time, send him away for another little find it. He's like, oh my gosh, where'd it go? He's got to use his little sniffer. And right here, Ozzy, come. Yes, nice job. If your puppies tend to, when they run towards you, get a little excited and they try to drive on by, what I would recommend is the next time you call him is when you call him into your space, maybe do, for example, a little find it. So you could go, Ozzy, come. And then for coming into your space, you drop a few snacks. You can get him comfortable with sometimes reaching and touching and patting and grabbing for gear. I know with one of the other previous doggy day school students, Phoebe, she's a little toy poodle. She was all black and adorable with a little pearl necklace. She, for example, was also working the gotcha skill, which is practicing grabbing for gear and feeding. So that way your puppy, when you go to reach for equipment, it doesn't become startling or the beginning of a game or like keep away. Because sometimes when you go to reach for them, they think you're playing and then they dart off again. So ready? So we're going to send Mr. O again. Ready? Ozzy. Nice name recognition. Good job. So right there, my little positive interrupter just to gain his attention. And then we're going to go into another little find it. So then the fun thing about those finds, he's like, lady, I lost it. Sometimes the treats do blend with the floor. Ready? Find it. So we can always try a second snack. And then Ozzy, come. Yes. You can also sometimes, oh, we dropped it. You can also do a little jackpot, which I know I mentioned a little bit earlier. So a jackpot, you might use your hand as the plate, feed, and then do another one right after the other. So it's one snack. He's like, lady, where'd it go? It's in your hand. Right here. It's in the hand. There we go. So we feed one after the other. He's like, no, I'm really hoping it comes from the jackpot hand over here. So this helps your puppy also start to find a lot more value in certain tasks or certain behaviors. Because if, let's say, they got the same exact paycheck for every single thing they did, or as the environment got much harder, it was the exact same food items, you might lose value in attempting those skills, or the paycheck may not seem equivalent of the difficulty of the work. Mr. A says, I heard a funny noise. He's doing some woo-wooing. Ready? We'll do another little find it. So, but now let's say he was doing really well with find its and then Ozzy, come, and working these recalls. Be careful that you don't do so many that it turns into like boot camp for practice. We want to keep training easy, light, and short for greater success. So we're going to get our little sit. He's like, my brain slightly melted right there. Yes, good job. And now I'm going to tell him, now that he's a little tired, I'm going to tell him to wait. And we'll see if we can add a little bit of me moving and see how he tolerates it. If, again, your puppy's not doing so well, like he, oh my goodness, chewing and breathing is hard. You got it okay there, sir. It's really hard to multitask. So you got it. He's like, I got to chew it that other time. So we'll get another little sit. If, let's say, Mr. Handsome, he's like, I'm starving. If I lose his attention, I'm going to regain his focus. He's hoping I tossed it. Right here, we'll do a little sit. Nice. I'm going to feed him for that so he doesn't get too frustrated. Now I'm going to tell him to wait. So if adding movement was too hard, he's also probably getting a little tired. But if adding me creating distance was too hard, just reset him up and don't add distance. So just work the time frame. So we're going to get this lovely little sitting. He's like, lady, I am so tired. We'll try to get one more good one out of him if we can. So again, wait. And then Ozzy, come. Nice. He's like, lady, I dropped it. So with your handsome guy, remember that if there are certain skills where he's not being as successful, remember to gauge that, again, like the set of lights that we mentioned a little bit in class, and there was the document, is in the email. So it creates green, very easy, attainable skills and environments. Yellow, a little bit more challenging. He's not quite as fluid. He has a bounce back, but he's getting a little bit unsure. And then red is where no one's doing well. So everything's out the window, the abilities, the comfort range, the retention, and you might be getting behavior you don't really love. So try to stick to mostly green to yellow and practice in those zones. So, but we're going to give Mr. O a little breather from these recalls, the weights, and the loose leash walking for a moment. I want to work a little bit with some leave-its in just a moment. So we'll give him a little breather and we'll reboot and we'll do some leave-its.